Welcome back, family, to the South Florida Recruiting Report. Marcus Benjamin here, representing for Rivals and On Three. And I try to provide the most recruiting news, stories, highlights as well from the top players in the state, not just South Florida, but in the entire state. And to really talk about it all today, I've got none other than Larry Blustein from Prep Red Zone, Florida. He's kind enough to join me today to talk a little ball. Thanks for joining me today, Blue.
Hey, anytime, Marcus. Appreciate you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been crazy these past couple of weeks, man. It's that type of year or time of the year where it's camps, it's 7-on-7s, it's 5-on-5s, and just all kinds of competition. So you really kind of get to see what's up with these current class of 2027 and then also future classes 2028, 29. It's got some ballers too, Blue. It's a lot of great players out there. I know you've been a lot of places as well. I've been to Battle Miami. I've been to 5-on-5 trench football. I've also been to Elite 11, the regionals down in Miami. So, but I know you've been some places as well. Tell me a little bit about kind of where you've been recently and what players are really kind of standing out to you.
Yeah, obviously, I'm doing a lot of up north things. I was in Tampa. I went to Orlando, and we had we're going to have another camp there this Sunday, the Prep Red Zone camp. And we had a lot of kids that first go around, but it kind of was bad weather. And, we didn't want to put the kids in in harm's way because it was the field was kind of wet, but had an opportunity, like I said, I went to San Antonio for the Navy game and got a chance to see some really, really good kids. Nick Lanier obviously is one of the hot commodities, nationally now. And I think everybody's kind of seeing what we've seen the last 3 years. A lot of these people don't understand that, it's almost like a rite of passage that every year you have a stud, a wide receiver, especially down here in South Florida, Jeremiah Smith. And obviously everybody saw, this last couple of, classes and had an opportunity to watch some of the really Malachi Tony type of players. So they understand that. And, going to that game and seeing a few of those players from the state of Florida, mostly Nick, who was, shined as an underclassman, but also Under Armour, and you got a chance to go out there and you saw, a lot of the kids like Mark Matthews and see what type of player he is, Julius Jones Jr., Zayden Gamble, all from St. Thomas. And I think for that reason alone, guys like that, when you go to events like that and you showcase your talent, especially the underclassmen against some of the upperclassmen kids, that's where you get a lot of the shine. So it's there's been some really, really good kids, and looking at a lot of the 2027 kids, that we're getting opportunity to see now and see at places like Zyron Forstall, the edge rusher from IMG Academy, who's simply a stud. We had an opportunity to see Osani Gales, who I like a lot, a wide receiver.
Yeah,
you saw him as well up at Under Armour. Last year, our top player, in the 2027 class going in was Caden Henderson, the linebacker out of Jesuit. Even though he's not the number one player, he's in the top 5. But IMG keeps getting kids like Eric McFarland, the wide receiver. He came in. We talk about Julius Jones. I think he's a big time guy. Jamar Thompson out of West Boca Raton. There's a lot of people who feel that when it's all said and done, he can end up, with Miami. He's that type of player. Another IMG kid that we had an opportunity to watch, Aaron Washington, who's a freak, cornerback, 6 foot, getting bigger all the time. And then there's guys who had, been here. Mekhi Williams from Leonard High School up in Ruskin, which is up, in the Sarasota, Bradenton area. Kid that's really been under the radar. Safety, big 6'3", 160, 65 pounds. And then a kid we had an opportunity to see last summer at a couple of camps at Florida and Florida State was an edge rusher out of Atlantic Coast High School in Jacksonville. not one of the bigger schools, but it was Desmond Malpress who has an opportunity to be really special. And unless you get into some of those nooks and crannies, in a lot of the smaller areas of Florida, you don't get a chance to see kids like Tremont Collins out of Cottondale. Small school, but certainly has a lot of talent. And then, in South Florida, you have Sean Tatum, who a lot of people think, other than Matthews, might be the best offensive lineman in that class, and out of John Carroll and Fort Pierce. And a kid that I like, the two kids that I like that committed to Miami, Jalen Jones, safety, was at Western, MacArthur, and then DeMarcus DeRoche, who is a player that I saw early on as a basketball kid at Boyd Anderson. And now he's at Cardinal Gibbons. He's a Miami commitment. This kid's big time. And you got a chance to see him if you went to that Elite 11. I heard he showed out pretty well at that event. And, he's a receiver. He's an edge rusher. He's an outside linebacker. But those are some really, really good kids. A lot of people haven't gotten an opportunity to see them up close yet.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you mentioned DeMarcus DeRoche. I'm going to play some highlights of him. Outstanding talent. I think he is going to end up being actually a tight end for Miami when it's all said and done. Definitely a talented player. Just from my side, from the players that I've seen, Tyler Alexander has been really impressive to me. Defensive lineman out of Palm Beach Central. I feel like he's going to continue to shoot up the rankings and recruiting boards across the nation. And then also, I liked Elias Pearl, wide receiver out of Port Charlotte. Really talented kid. He's starting to get a lot of attention from the likes of Ohio State and Georgia. I really like what I've seen from him. I think he's going to definitely shoot up the boards as well. Carl Jones Jr. is another player that I like out of Tampa, Tampa Bay area. I really like what I've seen from him. He's getting a lot of attention lately. And, you mentioned Jamar Thompson, but there's a couple other guys at West Boca that I like as well. Javion Harrington. I feel like he has potential to be one of the better defensive linemen here out of South Florida. He's playing on that defensive line with West Boca, so no double teams for any of those guys. Also, Wilzard is I forget his last name, but he's also on that. I think it's Wilzard Joseph. He is another player who I think is really talented, who could make a name for himself here in the off season. As far as offensive linemen are concerned, our Reed Ramser, I think, is a player that is may end up at Miami as well. He seems like a Mario Cristobal, Alex Mirabal type of guy. So I wouldn't be surprised if he ended up at Miami.
Right.
Yeah, and there's been several other players from out of state as well that I've liked, but those are kind of the ones to me that are, that have shined so far here in this off season. I will say in the younger classes, and watching, like I said, highlights of DeMarcus DeRoche, the Miami commit, I will say that in the 2028 class, there's some ballers there, Blue. Of course, you got to start with Amir Sears, right? He's just been absolutely spectacular for South Florida Express. Him, along with Neiman Lawrence, who's now at Heritage, I think has been a very talented combination for that 7-on-7 team. And then Antron Branch, Blue, has really kind of blown up lately. He's got special ties, family ties, being that TJ Branch, his brother, now at UCF, and his cousin is also Kenton Dobson, which I didn't realize. Yeah, that's his actual blood cousin. So definitely a player to watch for the future. He's absolutely blown up in recruiting. But Blue, let's go position by position here, man. When you come to the 2027 class, there's top guys around the state at every position. But at quarterback, who if you had to pick a quarterback here in the state, 2027, who would it be for you?
Well, the young man that probably showed his due, Davidson from Cardinal Mooney. I
Yeah,
thought that he's kind of emerged, kind of to the top of the class, only because of what he's been able to do. Had a great season, for them, and certainly showed that he's got the ability. Big kid at 6'6". I think
sure,
he probably would be, going in as the number one quarterback prospect for that class. There's a lot. You talk about some of the other kids. I mean, it might not be going in, but you have the kid Wonderful Mons from Vero Beach who
sure,
reclassified to 2027. I think he's going to be one of those prospects to keep an eye on because he's just very athletic. He's got size. He's had an opportunity to do some really special things. As far as that's concerned, I think that you look at James Perrone, who's now at St. Thomas Aquinas. Um, he's going to be pretty special too. We saw him last year at the last couple years at Southridge, do his thing. Currently committed to USF. You never know if that'll change, but being at St. Thomas, he's certainly going to have an opportunity to work with a lot of kids. Another guy that I really like, you talked about his receiver just a few minutes ago, but Logan Flaherty out of Port Charlotte. I mean, he's
for
a
sure.
he's a 6'3" kid, maybe a 180, 185, has an opportunity to do some special things because of his size, his ability to make plays. So I think those guys, you look at Zach Katz, who's already committed to FIU from
For
Miami
sure.
True North, who's, a very, very good quarterback, very smart type of kid, somebody who's going to make some plays because of the fact that, he reads defenses really well. He's got some legs, so he's going to use his legs a little bit. But I think those guys right there going in would probably be the kids that you want to keep an eye on.
Yeah, absolutely. Watching highlights of Davin Davidson, state champion with Cardinal
Yeah.
Mooney. I really liked him. Even before he won the state championship, I thought he was outstanding. I wrote a story before, he started to blow up. So he was definitely on my radar this season or last season rather. But Yeah, I liked all the quarterbacks that you named. One more I will name out of Central Florida now is Will Jackson. He's a
Yeah,
player
he's starting
who,
to blow up a little bit.
yeah, came from Camden County, was originally from Orlando, Winter Park, and then, he's back at Orlando Evans. So I think he's a really talented dual threat quarterback. He's one of the top guys that I saw at the Elite 11 regionals here in Miami. You kind of named all the other guys besides Kevin Verpale is like the other guy in Florida out of Merritt Island who I would say was a top quarterback that I saw as
Yeah.
well. So let's move on to running back, though, man. Running back, and we might only have time for offensive guys. Let's just go to running back. I'll kind of start with a couple of guys that I think are really impressive, and I'll start with Davin Davidson's teammate, Connell Jackson. I really think he is a really talented running back that can do some things out of the backfield. He can make you miss, can explode for touchdowns. I like Cecil Smith as well, True North. Actually,
He's
he's
actually
at
at
Columbus.
Columbus now. Yeah.
Yeah, he's at Columbus now. True North last year. I think he's a really kind of an underrated type of talent. I think he has a chance to really blow up this season. Nenad Joseph, a player from the west coast of Florida.
Naples lately, yeah.
Yeah, he used to play over there with Brady Quinn, who's now at Chaminade. That's another quarterback that we didn't name. But
But he's
yeah,
28, so he's
yeah, 28 player. But I really think he's already probably one of the best running backs in Florida. What running backs are really standing out to you?
well, the kid Trinard Roberts, who started out at Williston, went over to IMG and ended up at the Villages. I think he's a really good back. He's a big kid. He's fast. He's got a lot of athletic ability. Kid that's at Chaminade Madonna now is at West Broward. Amos Bradford, who I think is a big time player. He's currently committed to Toledo, but I think that's got to change. I mean, the kid's a a big time type of guy. Speaking about that, Arwen Jackson, who just left Chaminade, um, which is kind of crazy, but that's how. That
Where's Arwen Jackson at now?
I think he's headed to Carroll City, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh wow, wow.
Yeah, Tyler Reed at a Miramar. Brother went to played a Pitt. I think he's got a lot of athletic ability. He's a really, solid runner. He makes a lot of, he's quick. He catches the ball out of the backfield, which I think is important, especially at this level. You had mentioned Joseph out of Laley High School, quality kid. But Arwen, I think Arwen with the experience, tell you a guy that a lot of people don't know about, and we talked about him last year when he came from Vero Beach and played at Piper's, Jannard Young. He's at
Yeah.
Plantation now, which is
Oh, okay.
unfortunate. Yeah, really good. 5'11", 200 pounds. This is one of those kids that Vero Beach was really sorry to see go because he's a quality player. But a lot of people were really surprised that he left and went to Plantation, and because I thought he fit real well with what Coach Quentin does up there. Dorian Jones, who we've watched the last 2 years at Venice, I think he's going to be a really good player. He's going to get a lot more carries this year. They just got a new quarterback in, but that type of offense kind of favors players like him. A guy could tote the ball, doesn't really he doesn't fumble a lot, which is really, really good. So I think those type of running backs, it's not the deepest running back group, but, you mentioned a couple of the other kids, the Jalen Powell kid, who's up at the First Academy, who had a fairly good year as well. I did want to shoot another kid in there, a quarterback who's coming back after an injury. He's at O'Galley, Joseph Allen, who was at Melbourne Central Catholic, and then he went to O'Galley, got hurt last year, but I think he has an opportunity, to be kind of special down the line too. So, yeah. And as time goes on, during the off season and then during the spring, I think we're going to see a lot more of those running backs emerge, because right now, in 7-on-7, they don't showcase the running backs, because
Right.
but you're seeing more of the defensive backs and the quarterbacks and the wide receivers.
Yeah, absolutely. One other running back, he's a younger class back, is Lee Prince. He's still
Yeah.
at Shaman. He's still at
No, he's
Shaman,
at
right?
he's at Carroll City now.
He's also at Carroll City. I can't keep up with this high school transfer
Believe
portal.
me, man.
It's a
Believe
lot going on.
Believe me, it's last year I kept up with it to the point where I published it all the time, but a lot of people didn't like that I published it, so I have them. So anytime that you need, I'll send you any of the updates. I just don't want to make it public anymore because a lot of people get offended. Okay,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah, and then
sympathetic to that. I understand. Unless you're on the receiving end of these kids, you don't
right,
want to hear you don't want to hear about it. So
right,
I can
exactly.
understand.
Yeah, I totally understand it too. A lot of these teams are probably a little bitter that their star player has left, for another program. But
I
it is
agree.
what it is. That's the
I
name of
hear
the
you.
game. That's the name of the game these days, in high school football, college football, and
No
even
doubt.
pros. Like players will jump ship all the time.
100%.
Yeah, so I think that kind of rounds out most of the running backs that I think we wanted to name. Let's go wide receivers. Obviously,
Okay.
Nick Lanier is the guy, right? Nick
Yes,
Lanier.
he is.
We already talked about him. He's by far and away, I think we both agree, is the top wide receiver in the state of Florida and can arguably be the top wide receiver in the entire country.
Yeah.
But what other guys? Well, I'll name one that to me is definitely probably going to challenge for that is Julius Jones. Julius Jones has
Yeah.
been outstanding. He made an insane one-handed catch in the state championship game last month. He was one of the participants at the Under Armour All American game, and I thought he was one of the best receivers when it came to route running,
Yeah.
catching the
Yeah.
football. I think he's an outstanding talent. What other wide receivers do you think will kind of challenge for maybe the number one spots here in Florida?
Well, I think IMG's got a pair of them in Osani Gales, who you got a chance to see, and also Zion White, who I think is
Zion
really
White
good.
for sure.
Yeah,
Another guy
yeah.
I saw at the Under Armour. I was impressed with.
Yeah, 6'3", 175 pounds. Kid could get up there. Do we have an elite type of kid, in this class like Samarian Wingo was last year? I don't know. We'll see, because I think Wingo's going to be damn special with Miami. Speaking about Miami, what about Amari Stevens? Miami commitment. Kids at Chaminade Madonna. Still, Chaminade may have lost a few players, but their receiving core is pretty darn good. They still got him and a few other. Tremone Isaac is still there, and they got a couple of kids. A kid that I really like out of the Panhandle, I got a chance to see him in the Tallahassee area last year at Godby High School. Jamarian Simmons, I like him a lot. I think he's more of a slot type of player. He gets open a lot. I think he's going to be really, really good. What about Anthony Jennings at Dillard? Maybe the fastest a receiver in the
Yeah,
state. Kid runs a 4.35,
he's
and
been blowing up as far as
yeah, and he should, because he's got really good speed. What about Jaden Carey? At St. Thomas, he plays both ways. He can play defensive back. He can play receiver.
yeah.
I like
Yeah, when I
him.
think about him, I think about him as a defensive back, though. Like
Yeah,
that's not the first thing I think about
no,
when I
I
think about
understand.
Jacob.
And you look at Jacob Thomas from Flanagan, who I think is really starting to, make some waves
Yeah,
at a wide receiver
for sure.
position. I think he's a really, really good player. What position does Brian Dillard play? At the First Academy, he was a quarterback at West Orange. He could play receiver, a slot. He could play defensive back. I think Brian Dillard is getting a lot of looks. A lot of major colleges have looked his way. I think he has an opportunity. A kind of a newer kid at St. Thomas. What about Austin Coles? He's like 6'4". He's 195 pounds. He's a big kid. I like him. I like everything that I've seen about him. And St. Thomas is always going to attract some elite type of players. But that Kamarian Young from MacArthur, I certainly like him
For
a
sure.
lot. I mean, that's
For
a
sure.
kid who last couple of years he's been on the horizon, and it's really tough because you have so much talent in one area. What about Wesley Wynn, a Boston College
Yeah,
commit,
like him.
played out in San Antonio as a junior, was committed to Boston College early on, came from California, played last year. I thought he was really good. And another guy that a lot of people are kind of overlooking, I think, is a kid at Fort Myers. In that area, Naples, Fort Myers, Landon Wolney. He was at First Baptist, a big kid, about
Tight
six.
end, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
tight end wide receiver type kid though, but he's got tight end type of size, but he's got wide receiver capabilities. And then I got a kid that I think is going to really blow up this year. He's at Matter Academy. His name is Jamal Robinson. Originally started at Killian. I think this kid may be as good
yes,
as
for
anybody.
sure.
Yeah, you wait till you get a chance. Wait till the people get a chance to see him. So, yeah, there's a good look at it. A lot of wide receivers. Tight end wise, you had mentioned. With before with a kid. D. Roche, but also you have Trey Proctor, who just transferred to
Committed to
American
Auburn
Heritage.
and
So,
committed to Auburn as well.
yeah, committed to Auburn, went to Heritage, and you got a few of those type of guys lingering around too. So, yeah, we'll see. I mean,
Yeah,
there's a lot of athletic ability out there at the wide receiver position.
yeah, wide receiver and tight end. One other tight end I will mention that has a chance to really blow up because it seems like there's going to be like four, maybe. Well, it's usually like 4 or 5 or 6 good teams here in South Florida that are like the cream of the crop, and one of those this year seems like it's going to be Columbus. So a tight end I think to watch is Parker Gove. I think he has a chance. He's got really good size. And I think if he puts it all together and really kind of develops, he could be a player that could end up with 20 offers, something in that range. So
Because of that
I think
size, yeah, he does. He's just like Benji Blackshear, who was there a couple years ago, ended up at Stanford.
yeah, absolutely, really good comp there. So yeah, I do think Outler too, out at American Heritage. I think he
Yeah,
has a chance to really kind of show show what he's got as well.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, and Stringer at Heritage as well, the wide receiver. I think he has a chance to really kind of show what he
Yeah,
can
he
do.
had. You're right. He had a big year
Michael
last
Stringer.
year.
Yeah. So yeah, wide receivers. That down here in South Florida, it's
Yeah.
really plentiful. There's so many guys to really choose from. Defensive line, man. Switch over to defense. Let's see if we can run through the defense really quickly here. Frederick Arz, I'm going to start with. Really
From
outstanding
Orlando
talent
Jones. Yeah.
out of Jones. I think he's probably one of the best defense ends. By the way, we're watching highlights of Amari Stevens, the Miami commit. Yeah, so I think he has a chance. I already mentioned Tyler Alexander, and we already mentioned Jamal Thompson and those guys. But what other defensive ends, to defensive tackles, do you think really has a chance to really kind of blow up this offseason here?
Well, there was a kid that I saw last year at camps, and he seemed to draw a lot of interest. He's from a small school on the west coast of Florida, Indian Rocks Christian, Anthony Cavallaro. I think he's really good. He's about 6'5", 215. Santana Harvey from Lakeland. I
Yes,
think he has an
absolutely,
opportunity to be pretty special, as time goes on. It's not, you never know. I think Wyatt Smith from St. Thomas Aquinas has probably as big upside as anybody at 6'6",
yeah,
250 pounds. His dad played in the league. The kid is really, kind of a quiet, unassuming type of player. But nevertheless, I think a guy that people have to watch now is Drew Sapp out of Lakeland.
for sure.
Had a pretty good year this year
Yeah,
after a
saw him at the 5-on-5 down here at Archbishop McCarthy. I was really impressed by him.
very quick off the ball, very strong. Kid's motor is crazy. It never kind of stops. I mean, I think guys like that have an opportunity to really, put themselves in the spotlight. I just wanted to add one tight end because I was thinking about him today. Another IMG kid, surprise, surprise. Judah Lancaster. I'll tell you, this kid's a big
Mhm.
time kid. He's 6'4", about 225. He runs real well. He's a blocker as well. But I just wanted to kind of add that into that tight end mix because I was just thinking about some of the kids that I had an opportunity to see, and I kind of jotted down, some of those names as well. And yeah, you got, the kid Furtado at defensive line from First Academy. I think he's going to be one of those guys that you got to keep an eye on because these kids start to merge. Zaquan Linton out of Palm Beach Central. I don't know if he was at that 5-on-5 event, but he's another guy that I like a lot last year. Another kid that we had a chance to see last year when they played Jacksonville University Christian came down to play against True North. And they have a kid named Julius LaRosa. And this is a big time kid. And even, at the state championship games with Reigns and Bowles, I had mentioned him to a couple of the coaches, and they said this kid may be one of the best, if not one the best in that First Coast area. He's about 6'3", 260, 265, very athletic, very fast, for his size. Yeah, so you got guys like him. You have Julius Graves from IMG Academy at a defensive tackle spot. So like I said, we're gonna see. I mean, the kid Travoris Finley, who went to Carroll
Yeah,
City from Chaminade Madonna, who used to be
for
at
sure.
St. Thomas, follow the bouncing ball type thing, wherever they are now. And yeah, so there's a lot of talent. Kindred Outland from Mandarin, who had a really good year last year, put himself on the map. Caleb Exum from Braden River. I think he's transferred schools, but for right now, he's at Braden River. So there's a look at a couple of guys there that I think have an opportunity to be really special.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. Another name I'm going to throw out there is Danny Torres. I think he's a talented guy who should be on the radar for many as well.
Is that the kid that went to
We
Bradford?
can we talked a little bit off. Yeah, yeah,
He's from
up in that
originally from South Florida.
Lakeland.
Well, he's originally, I believe, from South
Oh,
Florida.
okay.
Right. Yeah, good stuff. Yeah, yeah. No, guys like
Yeah,
that. I'm excited about some of those kids like that.
yeah, for sure.
They
City.
can, yeah, he may have. There's so many of those guys. Yeah, Tamaris is
He may
really
have,
good.
but yeah,
You know,
really talented kid.
him.
I think he's gonna blow up this offseason. Really talented guy. Um, let's see here.
Caden
What other
Henderson,
linebacker?
obviously, Caden from
Yeah,
Tampa Jesuit, Caden Henderson, who I was really blown away by, last year. And, before he, a lot of people had heard of him. I thought he was one of the top players, in the state. You look at Amari Irvin, the son of, you know, the Cedric Irvin, who played down here, and his
yeah.
brother who played at Columbus is at Stanford. I think he's at IMG. He's another kid that, kind of he's growing into that linebacker position. The Lomeli kid, who I like a lot, Leofo Lomeli out of Bradenton IMG. I got a chance to see him, 6'2", 210, big guy, big type of kid. Trying to think,
Debonair
there's
Johnson. Debonair Johnson is a player
stud,
I
stud.
definitely want to name, and I'm seeing that he's at Carroll City now too, which is crazy. Carroll City is absolutely loading up. Another
Yeah.
player I have to mention is Stephen Moore. Definitely top player, just a really instinctive player. Hits hard and is very fast to the football. Those are a
Very
couple of
athletic. He's a
yeah,
wrestler type of kid. So, him and the Deion Jackson kid from Legacy High School up in Port St.
yeah,
Lucie, who's really coming on a lot. I saw him a couple of times in the off season and during the season. So there's, the linebacker position, you still have Jacoy Highsmith from Archbishop McCarthy, who's kind of growing into that position now. They had him out down. I don't know if he was in that 5-on-5, but that's a kid that they had on the outside last year and playing a little bit with his hand down, but he's very quick. But I think he's learning a lot about, that position. And I'll tell you another guy, the son of the head coach at Bethune-Cookman, Caden Woody. I think he's going to be real good. He's at Spruce Creek High School up in the Daytona Beach area. A big kid at about 6'3", 210, 215. I think he's got an opportunity. The Trinity Christian Jacksonville linebacker, Terrell Pinkney, who I really like. I mean, he's very fast. He's safety looking, but he's getting bigger and bigger. And sooner or later, he's going to have to make, somewhat of that transition to that position. But yeah, and then you mentioned, excuse me, Debonair Johnson, who started out at South Broward. He played for a minute at West,
yeah.
went to
Arthur.
MacArthur. Yeah,
Yeah.
so yeah, and then another guy I don't want to forget too, because I think he's really climbing the ladder. His name is Trip Keller. He's out of
Yes.
a
I'm glad you
Jesuit high
mentioned it.
school, and
Yeah.
he's got an opportunity to be pretty special too. So you got some really really good linebacking guys that some outside, some inside. Some in the middle. So that's the thing about Florida. You don't know where these kids are going to end up, as far as that's concerned.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially nowadays in with the transfer portal. Another player I do want to mention is Isaiah Cunningham at Archbishop McCarthy. Really talented
Yeah.
linebacker as well. Watch out for him. Let's kind of quick. I know it's hard to go through DBs because DBs is probably maybe the most talented
Oh yeah.
a group in the state of Florida. But players that stand out to me is Jeffrey O'Neal out of Plantation. I don't know if he's at a different school
Yeah. I
now.
don't know if he's still there, right?
Justin Antinor, I think he's a player on the rise from Archbishop McCarthy.
Yeah. Yeah.
John
Nice.
John Gay from Chaminade Madonna is a player that seems to get better year after year. Avir Jordan, top player that I like. I believe he's at a different school now. Not quite sure.
Yeah.
Samaje Robinson is a player out of Palm Beach Central. Watch out for Palm Beach Central this year because I think they got some talented players over there. It's just a
Yeah.
very versatile, long corner. Could probably play safety as well. Larry Morgan is starting to come on pretty strong out of West Boca. I think he's a really talented DB. as well as some other guys like Javon Dawson out of Santa Lucis. I think.
Yeah.
Oh, Kelsey Gerald was a running back that I forgot to mention.
Yeah,
Really
he's out of
talented
Santa
running back.
Lucia still, right?
Yeah, I definitely like him. I feel like he's gonna rise up a lot of recruiting boards. And then Marlon Johnson Jr. and Khalil Thomas are some other DBs that I think are really talented. When we go to some Jamari Foreman, Florida State commit, definitely a talented guy there. Him and Zachary Johnson. Both of those guys, very versatile players, can play a number of different positions. Those guys. What defensive backs are standing out for you, Blue?
Well, I had mentioned Aaron Washington, the kid that's at the IMG Academy, big time kid. Makai Williams from Ruskin, Leonard High School.
Yeah,
I think
for
he's a
sure.
bit. I think he's going to be a beast. Tremont Collins, the kid I mentioned to you from Cottondale up in the Panhandle. I think he's got a chance to be. We mentioned Jalen Jones, who's already a stud.
For sure.
I think the kid has, and Zayden Gamble, who I think is going to climb this ladder. I think a lot of people project him to go to Miami, and he'll fit in real well there. I mean,
Yeah,
he's a kid that showed in that the Under Armour All Star game that he belongs. I mean, he's a big time kid. I think another guy that a lot of people are missing. He's getting a lot of offers. He got a chance to play out in San Antonio. Is Amari Nugent from American
yeah.
Heritage Plantation.
It's committed to Florida.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, this kid is. And what about Bryce Williams, Florida State commit out of Western High School? He has stayed, at Western. Kid, he and his brother were both really good. They came over from Somerset Academy. I think the Senseri Gaylord kid out of IMG. Those IMG kids just are crazy good. What about Charles Woodson Jr.? Kind of a little bit of the father who was just a beast and Hall of Famer, and now his son's who's at Lake Nona. I watched him plenty during the offseason. I think that kid's just a major talent. What about Trezevant Boyd, who
Oh,
transferred
yeah.
from Matter to Central? Is going to be a major player, and he's not the thickest, but you could always do that. Tyari Miller, who still is a work in
Yeah.
progress, but you can't teach 6'4" as a
Right.
corner.
Big kid.
So, I mean, that's a little bit, yeah. So I think those guys, Charles Roberts, another stud from IMG Academy. I mean, those IMG kids are just crazy. I think you mentioned Samari Howard out of St. Thomas,
For sure.
who's who's going to be really good. Kamori Whitfield out of the First Academy. He's picking up major offers in the offseason. So there's some guys like that, that we're going to add, tons more as we see them. The Otha Thomas kid, it's at Pine Forest in Pensacola, great panhandle guy. You mentioned Jamari Foreman, who's got an opportunity to be really, really special. Jakari Parks out of Ed White in Jacksonville, I think he's going to be really, really good. So there's a lot of talent. And as you and I meet, and talk a lot in this off season, as we get a chance to, more towards spring, it's kind of, tough to really tell other than the twitch from 7-on-7. But when you get to see these kids line up, during the spring, and at some of them padded camps during the summer, then you could tell a lot more about them, because you got to remember, a lot of people have to remember that this is the time that their growth period, they could go and I've tried to tell people this, that you have a kid who, when they finish up in November or December, that may be 5'8" and about 150. But then all of a sudden in March, April, when they come back to see him, they could be 5'10", 180. And, because of the growth. And it changes their entire recruiting package, because, those guys that you sit there and say at 5'6", 150, oh, I wish he was 180 or 170, or I wish he was a little bit taller. But this is a time of year, especially when you get those kids who are, 27, 28 kids, that they grow up quick. And this is their maturity period. And this is where, they could change. There's a lot of people, when I mention one player, no, he's too small, I said, have you seen him lately? those. That's what happens. But that's what recruiting is, and I've been very fortunate to have been able to see this process play out for decades and decades, and but now more so than ever because kids are changing schools left and right. So you got to keep your eye on where they're at. And, it's even tough for college coaches, because these kids will leave in the middle of the night and not tell anybody. And college coaches will go to their old school and they aren't there.
Yeah, absolutely. A couple of other names I want to mention DB wise. George Harris, really talented player out of
True North.
I was going to say, is he still at True North?
Yeah, he's still there. The only thing with George is fighting now is he's a tweener.
He's in between a linebacker or a safety.
And a safety, right. So let's hopefully he could grow a little bit during the offseason. He will. He's a great athlete. You're right, though. He's got great ball skills, too.
Yeah, excellent ball skills. I think in a playoff game that we watched together, he had 2 picks.
Yes.
Yeah, really outstanding player. I don't know if we mentioned Andrew Davis Jr., talented player out of Flanagan. I'm not sure if they're still there, but out of Flanagan. And there was another player I wanted to mention here. Let's see, I got my list here. Macho Walker is another player that I wanted to mention out of MacArthur. And then Alan Blackshear as well, out of Carroll City, another talented defensive back to watch. I think that will definitely ascend here in this offseason. Tramel Harris, I'm not sure if we mentioned him.
Yeah, I saw Alan on Saturday at that at Mills Pond Park 7-on-7. He looked pretty good. Good rangy kid.
Yeah, and watch out for the group after that, 2029. DeMarcus Van Dyke Jr. Blue.
Yeah, I think he may be gone. I think he may be up at with his dad in Alabama, but we'll see. I was his dad got the job at Auburn, so
yeah, I know. I wasn't sure if he was staying.
Yeah, I asked somebody, didn't get a definitive answer, but he's pretty close to dad, so we'll see. And I'm sure dad would like to keep, watching him and stuff like that when he can. But yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
he's a beast.
Sure.
He's one of the top kids for the 29 class.
29 class, I think he has a chance to be a 5-star down the line, to be honest with you. If
he's
big. At that
size. He's 6'3.5".
Right, exactly. And he's 2029 with about 3 more years to grow into that body. I think with his dad, always kind of hovering over him to improve. I think he's going to be just an outstanding talent down the line. So that's definitely a player to watch. Van Dyke Jr. Thank you, Blue. I know you got to run. You got a busy day. You've been having a busy day and busy off season like we all have who are in this industry. I really appreciate the time for you to talk a little recruiting with myself. Always a pleasure, and hopefully I get to see you again soon, man.
Yeah, we'll be at the Rivals camp, and we can see more and more of these kids that we talked about. We'll lay some eyes on them, see what kind of twitch they have, see, if they come to compete, which they always do. So, yeah, that's the best thing about, getting a chance to see some of these camps is because kids that, again, that we saw the last time in, November, December, are now going to be in February, and that's a 2.5 month growth period. So don't be surprised if a lot of these kids that we saw earlier on, at the end of last season are growing quite a bit and maybe change the way that they're being recruited as well.
Yeah, absolutely. The great thing about 7-on-7 and 5-on-5 in these camps is you get to see them compete against each other. You really get to see the dog or the fight, or if a kid gets beat, if that's going to get him down, or if he's going to come right back and make a play.
Yeah, I agree.
So that's the type of stuff I love to see. And I'm looking forward to the Rivals camp, which is February 15th, by the way. And if you're watching this and you haven't been invited, make sure you sign up for the Rivals Combine, which is on February 14th. So it's in a couple of weeks. So, and if you were invited, make sure you register. I've been in a lot of DMs lately, just making sure kids register for these camps. So they are coming up soon, and I'm excited for it. Excited to see you there too, Blue.
Good. Thanks a lot.
All right. Thanks a lot, man. And I'll see you next time. And that is going to wrap it up for the South Florida Recruiting Report. Make sure you follow me at Benjamin Rivals on Twitter, Benjamin Report on Instagram. Also, definitely subscribe to this podcast, the South Florida Recruiting Report. And you can also, of course, see all my articles on rivals.com. Until next time.